I swear, folks, we are not fixing these matches, but at this point, it might look like we can't beat the allegations. It's another Warrior matchup coming up next, Michael, which means we've only had one non-Warrior match streamed today. And it is yet another Fang Dracai of Blades, which I am not upset about. It is also somebody that has the record for people saying that they're his nemesis on player profiles.
You know him, you might not love him. Evan Bridges.
Here he is, the man in all of his splendor and glory, Dr. 040 himself, Evan Bridges. He would be marching drum corps, I guess, if he wasn't competing in Fab, even though I think he would have aged out at this point.
Yeah.
Anyway, Zane Johnson's is his rival, which is pretty apt because that is the exact man who beat him 40-0 in AGE history past.
That explains it.
What do you think about his take on Star Wars there, Michael?
Last Jedi, easily in the top tier of Star Wars content. I have watched all the Star Wars movies, but it's been a while.
That's the first new one.
The first, so that's little baby Anakin. Or
no, that's baby Rey.
Baby Rey. Okay. Disagree. I think. My favorite was Rogue One. I don't even know if you get to count that, but man, that was a
he
banger.
says Star Wars content.
Yeah, that one was like.
So Sweet Baby Rey is good in barbecue sauce, but not in movies.
And of course, I'm sort of talking recent. Like, it's really hard to beat the first three, or I guess the 4, 5, 6, if you want to call them that.
Yeah, I can throw out numbers as well. And that's exactly what Evan is going to be trying to do on Fang Dracai of Blades. Let's take a look at his opponent, though, because he is also a regular here, one that has been making waves despite the fact that High Seas has not yet released. It's Paul
he's
Selinske.
Excited about that one, by the way, as a Ranger player and a pirate aficionado. I don't know anyone besides maybe DM Armada that likes pirates as much as Paul.
Paul Selinske is one of my local heroes. He's been part of my Flesh and Blood career since the beginning. He's one of your best friends.
Absolutely.
And he's just an absolute pleasure through and through. And he's ranging once again today. He's on Azalea and loving life. So we're really happy to see Paul here. And true to his form, if you play cards with the word Spectra on them, we got problems. Because Ranger no likey Spectra.
Yeah, no, he has been an illusionist hater for as long as he's been playing Flesh and Blood, and for good reason. They really interrupt what Azalea is trying to do.
Unlucky in illusionist matchups, and also in the genetic pool a little bit. It seems like he's got that cilantro tastes like soap gene.
I am not jealous of that. My stepdad has it as well, and I got to say, cilantro is one of the finer spices in life.
Thank you, Michael.
You gotta get the cilantro.
Are agreeing here. And honestly, if you make me a cilantro lime aioli, we're happy there. So there's the marriage: mayonnaise, cilantro.
Yeah.
Looks like we have more in common than we thought.
That's good to know.
Well, let's see if these players have as much in common, because we're going to head on down to the match area where Fang Dracai of Blades, in the hands of Evan Bridges, is going to take on Azalea, ace in the hole for Paul Selinske.
Paul having a little bit of a jig there.
Yeah, maybe doing his pirate shanties earlier rather than later. I should mention here that Evan Bridges is literally borrowing my deck for this match and also for the last weekend of PQs.
That's funny. I've borrowed your deck as well for tournament.
That's true. So Fang making his rounds. Evan pitching a relentless pursuit very early on, which is definitely unfortunate. Turn 0, you really like that uninteractable mark. Might mean that he has enough reactions in a scar tissue, which I think I see in the hand, in order to get over to the defenses of Paul. And yes, here we go. It's scar tissue. So Paul is going to be ultra marked. Unfortunately, you don't get any benefit for that, but Evan is still happy. Marked comes across, and he's also going to activate Grains of Blood Spill on hit of that dagger, generate a Vigor token, and pay that resource down the line.
Pretty good start there for Evan. You always like to get the mark early, and pushing 4 damage, too. Not bad.
It's not nothing. That is for dang sure. Paul seems to be thinking about whether or not he's going to activate Quiver of Rustling Leaves. Yes, indeed. It is 3 buffs that go into the pitch zone, and that makes so much sense for Paul, because the one way you get totally destroyed as Azalea is drawing nothing but buffs. And if he hadn't activated Quiver of Rustling Leaves, all his turn would be pass.
I see a world where maybe he just goes and gives 2 pumps for the block instead.
Yes.
So, potato, but Paul drawing back up now for his first turn of the game.
Let's see what he's able to put together here. He definitely wants to be stringing together red in the ledgers, but if Evan sideboarded his deck correctly, one of the cool things about Fang is you can use all of these instant speed plays in order to kind of skirt around the red in the ledger text and also the seek and destroy text to boot. Another reason why we love Sigil of Solace in this particular matchup.
Is the quiver supposed to be destroyed?
No, only if it reveals an arrow.
Oh.
Yeah, so you can activate it multiple times throughout the game as long as you don't find an arrow. So here we go. It is Lace with Frailty, Seek and Destroy. Paul is not rebuffed by the amount of buffs he had to pitch. So it's Lace with Frailty, Seek and Destroy into a Yellow Bolt and Shot for 9. Go again. Nasty on hits.
Yeah, really good stuff here. And that Frailty is such a pain for Fang to have to deal with. -1 on all weapon attacks and arsenal. But in this case, it's really the weapons.
It is definitely Fang pain. Evan, I believe, has found the one of 2 copies of Pledge Fealty in the deck. Yes, which is fantastic. A fantastic time to be seeing that card, especially because he's got that Vigor token to pay to make his first Fire Vein free. He's also got a defense reaction. I don't know if he has enough to shore up all of this damage, and maybe he doesn't really need to, given that it's early on. However, he is reaching for a lot of equipment here.
That's 5, and we know that he's got another 4 in the form of a defense reaction there. So does get to stop both of those nasty on hits.
Entirely possible that he wanted to protect his arsenal. He painstakingly set it up on turn 0. Doesn't want to give it up to Seek and Destroy. Maybe can't convert the entirety of the hand.
Makes a lot of sense as he now has 4 cards still to work with.
Evan's got a really good hand to work with here. Pledge Fealty is all right. His opponent is already marked. I don't think he's going to be getting online necessarily this turn, but he is very, very close to doing just that. Right now, it's Obsidian Fire Vein for 1, which is free thanks to the Vigor token that popped at the beginning of the turn.
Right you are, and if I know anything about Azalea, she doesn't like to block, so we're going to have a fast one on our hands as long as Evan is playing like this super aggressively as well.
He does have a Long Whisker Loyalty in hand, so the line that I'm looking at here, especially because we're not online yet, is Obsidian Fire Vein, play Pledge Fealty to get to the second chain link, pitch that Blaze headlong, send the second dagger, Long Whisker Loyalty, choosing the mode's buff, and mark. It all, of course, depends on what is in Evan's arsenal, though.
It does make sense. And here we see a no blue hand, which is one of the things that can be a little bit tough for Fang to deal with early game before he gets online.
Which is why we love that Grains of Blood spill. Every resource that you pay forward is another turn where you don't have to find a pitch card, right?
Yeah.
Because essentially, whatever red you pitch was as good as a yellow. And Evan says, no, I don't need 2 Draconic Chain Links. Instead, I'm playing Long Whisker Loyalty, immediately choosing the mode, this dagger will mark you on hit, which is a curious choice. Evan is probably saying that he wants to be online at the end of this turn.
Yeah, and I like that decision here. Now presenting a breakpoint, Paul is very likely to not block this. And although he will have a 5-card hand to throw back, now Evan gets his 3rd fealty with that Pledge Fealty.
So in this case, because Evan doesn't have any resources floating, he's just going to play out that Pledge Fealty and swing the dagger for 1 here. I like this play a lot. Evan showing his stripes on this Fang deck. So now he has placed squarely in Value Town. Was it a Blade Flurry that I saw?
It was.
Curious that he didn't send it here. Maybe wanting to be a little insulated from Codex of Frailty down the line.
Could be, but if he has no attack... Oh, he will have an attack after this in the graveyard.
Right now, it's just 1 damage for Paul. No on-hit here because he remains unmarked. Oh, no. He's thumbing a block. He's thinking that Evan has 1 more reaction.
Yikes.
Evan is so happy here to just say, cool, I'll pass. Does have to do the little bluff of the look of the card in Arsenal. And Paul, a little bit, unfortunately, not blocking earlier on in the chain. So losing 2 points of value there. Tunic ticks up to 2 for Paul. Let's see what he's able to put together here.
Blind Azalea.
Blind because Paul does not have the Skullbone Crosswrap that is kind of namesake to Azalea Ace in the Hole, opting for the more newly popularized Death Dealer New Horizon list that was making waves. Oh my gosh, where was that? Milwaukee recently? I can't remember. There are a lot of Flesh and Blood tournaments nowadays, Michael.
Yeah, there are.
Rewarded for his troubles, though. It's a read the glide path, activate Death Dealer.
Is
Load
that a
Bolton
Codex
shot.
of Frailty in his hand?
I didn't see it. It's entirely possible. Which would mean that Evan is up Trumbungus for not utilizing that Blade Flurry immediately last turn.
Yeah.
Right now, however, it's a 10 life deficit for Paul. The arrow slinging man that he is. 7 go again right here after Read the Glide Path buffs this Bolton shot up by 3. Evan says no blocks, absolutely, and disrespects the reload potential of Paul. Evan now down to 33, and Paul with a reload. Closing the combat chain is Paul.
And this is where I think we might see... Oh, it was a pump.
Ah, very nice. Clean play here from Paul Selinske. It is laced with Blood Rot into Codex of Frailty. Didn't even see the arrow that he found. He did it so darn quick.
Yeah.
Ponder token for him. Frailty token for you. And it was a drill shot. A nice piece right here.
Yeah, that can be so annoying to deal with if he can get those counters on meaningful pieces of equipment.
I've been thinking about the blocks here. It says Crown of Providence plus a card. Plus
That's
2 other
7.
pieces of equipment. That'll make 7. And Frailty tokens do a lot of work against Fang. It doesn't really stop him in his tracks, especially against a deck like Azalea that can't block him super well, but definitely still meaningful here. It's just going to basically be gaining Paul life all the way through the game. So life totals are looking a lot closer, but Evan has got a 4-card hand.
And importantly, Paul has now gotten through basically all of Evan's armor. Of course, the boots will keep refreshing, but that is one of the important things that a ranger needs to do in order to win a game is like chew through all that armor, and he has accomplished that.
Both players are reeling, trying to figure out a way to note the
zero
fact
on
that there's 0 on this Obsidian Fire Vein.
Yeah.
He might be your nemesis, but you got to love Evan. Paul really in the tank about this Obsidian Fire Vein for 0. You got to be super careful about the sidesteps here because any card you throw in front of this could absolutely lose a ton of value.
And we do see a Tooth of the Dragon in hand, so this is not the time you want to block, but does Paul know that?
That being said, Evan does have the Blade Flurry in the arsenal, so if Paul has perfect information, then he could throw 1 card in front of this and get full value. Oh my goodness.
Whoa.
There's more Blade Flurries to be had. Evan is hucking every card in his hand out onto the combat chain. This is exactly what Fang wants to be doing. Big, big numbers. 8 on this Obsidian Fire Vein that started as a measly 1. And the next one's going to be even bigger.
Yikes. So Paul taking a big chunk of damage. Hopefully he can convert his 5-card hand well because we are racing at this point.
Okay. Paul takes all of that damage on the chin and is now marked. So Obsidian Fire Vein, yeah, for 7 on the back of that, despite the fact that we have Frailty tokens in the mix.
Yeah, that Frailty is nice, though. I mean, it's doing what it does.
Save 2 life on this turn.
Paul now has a lot more information. No cards in hand means it's just 7, and there's no questions about it.
Yeah, Paul cannot get bamboozled like he did on the last turn.
Thinking.
And honestly, if I'm Azalea here, I definitely want to be saying as few blocks as possible because that probably means I have something massively disruptive to send Evan's way.
I do know that this list, it's sort of in between the Sandscour list that he loves so much and the traditional Death Dealer list in that it does have disruption more so than traditional Death Dealer, but not as much as the Sandscour Great Bow that he is used to piloting. So it may just be a lot of damage or it could be disruption.
I do see an Endless Arrow in the hand. Snapdragon Scaler is ready to be committed here. Paul did go ahead and block with a Long Draw Half Glove, which is an interesting inclusion here. I think he was perhaps expecting Evan to be bringing Warmonger's Diplomacy into this matchup. Starting off with a Blind Azalea activation and finding a Falcon Wing off the top. So this is 3 Dominate go again. 3 Dominate should be easy enough for Evan to shore up, and he probably did one of the classic Evan snorts of derision into the Falcon Wing.
Yeah. Just clearing up the arsenal. I like that play a lot, and it's really nice that he was able to get a go again arrow to just kind of smooth things over.
And there is a Red in the Ledger in the hand, but I think he is red locked otherwise. Drawing a card is Paul Selinske here, drawing into another Red in the Ledger. It's already bad enough to be drawing a ton of buffs altogether on turn 0 in the game. And The worst part about it is that you know that it's going to come up the opposite way later on down the line where you draw nothing but arrows. So in this case, however, Paul is still able to send a red in the ledger for 11, but I mean, in a world where that drawn card was a buff, this would be much more terrifying.
Yeah, and we were just talking about the importance of the disruption, and red in the ledger is one of the best pieces. However, Fang doesn't play a ton of action cards. We see one in his hand right now, so this is quite disruptive. But generally speaking, the reactions that Fang is doing are not affected as much.
So, like, you lose out on 1 value from your second Obsidian Firevein that would get buff. I'm sorry, 2 value for, the base value and then the +1. But, like, you're still kind of skirting the red in the ledger text if you're just vomiting everything you have out onto 1 dagger.
Yep, and so Evan takes the hit and is under the effect of red in the ledger.
Playing out Tooth of the Dragon, this is one of the best ways to kind of get around red in the ledger. Just play out Tooth of the Dragon because it's an instant, not an action. And then Obsidian Firevein for 4. Still technically just 1 action here, but still going to be able to present oodles of damage. 22 plays 16 in the favor of Evan Bridges, who has an Obsidian Firevein. His 1 allowed action for the turn on the combat chain.
Yeah, and he also has a reaction in hand, so can still do efficient things. The red in the ledger, kind of mucking him up a little bit, but not too bad.
I think it is 2 Searing Gazes in the hand, so if I'm in Evan Bridges' seat, I'm probably just going to send one of them and then pocket the other one in Arsenal for later. This Obsidian Firevein gets up to 7.
I think the other card is Savor Bloodshed.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Even better.
Yeah, just tuck that away for next turn.
Evan drawing back up and passing over to Paul, who sits at a very scary 9 life. Anytime you are below 10 life against Fang, you're in the hot seat. That is for dang sure.
Evan's got a little bit of a clunker, 2 blues, and like not a ton of meaningful reactions here.
Paul is activating Azalea straight away. I think putting a red in the ledger to the bottom of the deck, which should have been the Arsenal card at the end of last turn. I do see buffs. There's a Lace with Inertia #1, or is that a Codex of Inertia there? Take Aim offers a reload on that card. Pitching away Codex of Inertia, I'm assuming to activate Death Dealer here.
Oh, thinking twice.
That's okay, Paul. Take all the time you need. We're only about 10 minutes into this game. 15, technically. Plenty to boot. Looks like we might get a dinner break after all, Michael.
Ooh. As he reloads instead off of the Take Aim, thinking still about it.
Oh, watching Paul navigate these turns make me really want to play some Azalea, Michael.
There you go. And now he pitches to send Heatseeker.
Heatseeker. Perhaps thinking about employing the Snapdragon Scalers here. Heatseeker is just such an amazing card when you pair it with New Horizon.
It really is.
11. Not yet go again here with an Inertia token on hit and, of course, that Heatseeker on hit. When it hits at the beginning of Paul's end phase, he will be able to put the top card of his deck face up in the arsenal. That being said, it is not disruption. And Evan he's got 2 cards in hand at least that he's very happy to be blocking with.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's folding the hand here.
You can't fold too much, though, because you still need to play one of the drawbacks of Fang is that you have to do affirmative things on your turn. So 1 card block down here, and of course the Snapdragon Scalers comes through. Evan descends on down to 14. 2 on hits there, Inertia and Heatseeker. And Paul still at the ready for a Codex of Frailty, finding himself a red in the ledger that was put there last turn. And with that 1 resource floating, there comes our disruption.
That's a big turn for Paul.
And Evan, I think, sniffed it out really well because he's going to be able to do 1 card plus 2 equipment and shore it up. Expertly blocked by Evan Bridges using my deck. I'm not jealous. Heatseeker activated, finds Searing Shot, and then a mystery card in Paul's arsenal, which means that unless Evan is able to present enough pressure to Paul's life total, Paul's going to have a 6-card hand.
Yeah, I think he can go 4/5/4 as long as he's willing to pop that Frailty, which is a lot of damage.
Evan leading off with an Oath of Loyalty here. 4 go again, and he can only play Draconic cards for the rest of the turn. This is honestly pretty good for Paul here because it means that there's some face-up damage that he can throw a card in front of if he, for example, has redundant arrows. That being said, his redundant arrows here are Bolton shots on a turn where he's drawn Rain Razors.
Yeah, he's not going to want to give anything up until he absolutely has to, so I'm expecting no blocks here. And And then I think it's just Evan playing out his Savor Bloodshed from Arsenal and then his 4-power attack from hand.
I think if Paul has sniffed out at all that Evan is going to be coming for his life total this turn, if he's going to threaten lethal, now is the time you've got to block.
Yeah.
Because it's face-up damage. You can't, like Fang can't sidestep his way around your blocks, that kind of thing. Looks like Paul is committing the Fiendal Spring Tunic here. He's thumbing it, though. Not sure if he wants to throw it in just yet.
He does commit. Going to 6.
Obsidian Firevein for 0, as indicated by the bagel hand signal from Evan Bridges.
I might have been wrong about the Savor Bloodshed with this play. This is indicating to me that he has a reaction in Arsenal.
You would hope so, because now that he has resolved Oath of Loyalty, he can't play the
well, he could
Saber
with a
Bloodshed
fealty.
unless he pops a fealty. But he's got to convert whatever is in that arsenal because the inertia token looms large.
Yeah.
And Evan will be hiding under a desk and putting his arsenal card to the bottom of his deck if he doesn't use it.
I'm going to just point out how tough of a spot Paul is in terms of blocking, because if this is 2 reactions in hand, he could easily just lose the game if he doesn't block this correctly.
Mm-hmm. Luckily, because of the frailty token, he can't simply die to Hunt's End.
Right.
Because that would only get this dagger to 5 instead of 6. But yeah, I think Paul's sniffing out that he has to commit a card here. And that was always going to be the case, in my opinion. So that was why I was kind of advocating for the Oath of Loyalty block, because at least it's face up and you know you're going to get value out of your card. Yellow Bolt and Shot committed here. It is Searing Gaze, the second copy. So Bolt and Shot blocks out that Searing Gaze, and then it's for the Dracai coming in for 4, which means Paul isn't dead. He takes 4 all the way down to 2. This is a nail biter here, Michael, but this is exactly what Azalea needs to do in order to win games.
Yeah, and with a 5-card hand, 14's a lot to get over, but if he can strip enough, we see a defense reaction, which is well-timed.
Evan is definitely going to want to block with some cards here. He's got 2 blue block 3s and also a defense reaction, as you were talking about. Looks like an activation of Azalea here finds a Codex of Frailty, which is pretty awesome here.
Is that awesome?
Yeah, he's got a Bolt and Shot. He's already resolved the Rain Razors. So he's... Oh, but he has to clear out the arsenal. Yeah, no, you're right. This is a little clunky.
I mean, he can load with Death Dealer.
You can't load with Death Dealer unless your arsenal is empty.
Oh.
Which is why it is kind of... It's really tough to navigate with New Horizon when you're setting up like 6-card hands and stuff.
Yeah, Ranger... As Charles Dunn said, he can't play complicated decks. I've tried Ranger, and it just eludes me.
Which is so funny, because you're a Kano and a Cilio player, and I'm like the opposite. I can play Rangers all day. I can't touch those decks.
I love the way that Flesh and Blood, each hero clicks with each individual personality.
I think it's something that is drawing so many people to our flock as of late.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Paul would have loved to see any buff off of the top of the deck right there. So it looks like it's a Seek and Destroy, a Bolt and Shot, and a Rain Razors in hand. I think you're cutting your losses here.
You just have to play it, right?
Yeah, I think you have to play the Codex, probably discard the Rain Razors.
I can see
Find a Bolt and Shot in the graveyard, send that. Guarantee that go again. And then potentially pitch the buff into Death Dealer to draw another card.
Yeah, that 14 life is a lot to get through here without significant disruption, though.
Or never mind, you probably discard the buff, honestly, so that you can have 1 left over with Death Dealer and threaten a 1-cost arrow on the reload on hit. Man, it's been a while since I played Azalea. Yeah, Paul in the tank here, and it makes a lot of sense. This is the deciding moment of this game. 2 plays 14 here, a 12-life deficit on the side of Paul Selinske. He's got a Red in the Ledger on the bottom of the deck. Not a single Knock the Death Whistle has been seen.
True.
Evan Bridges at the ready to block 6 on this first Bolt and Shot, if need be.
Paul's just trying to think his way out of having to discard a card, but ultimately realizing it can't be done.
Did I forget to refresh his dynamos last turn?
No, he only swung one.
He only swung one?
dagger.
Okay. I'm just locking and loading for everything I can chastise Evan about after this game.
Smart.
Paul checking everything in his quiver.
Doing
Checking the trajectory of the wind. Figuring out his vectors. One of my favorite things to imagine in this game is, like in this instance, your opponent is like Beyblading fast daggers at you over and over again, and then it gets over to Azalea's side of the board, and she's just like sitting, thinking, like looking up at the sky. She's like thumbing one of the fletches on her arrows, and Fang's just standing there waiting for the coup de grace.
Yeah. And here it is, finally committing.
Paul goes for the second Rain Razors rather than discarding it or saving it to pitch to Death Dealer.
And in this case, does Evan have an arsenal?
He does not, so he has to choose an attack here.
That is nice for pushing damage.
Evan reading Codex of Frailty, a card that he knows incredibly well. I would think inside and out. Oath of Loyalty is the choice for Evan. What is the discard, though?
Probably one of those blues.
You got to choose, Evan. That being said, I mean, like, if Evan is worried about the damage output of Paul here, which might be the only way that he loses this game, he has a Draconic card in his arsenal. Even though it's only going to come in for 3, it still protects those 4 fealties. So he could say, like, listen, if I need to commit everything to block here, I could discard this Blistering Blade, and I know for sure that I can keep these fealties around and threaten lethal.
And he does just that, preferring to keep the block value.
I think it's heads up. Paul Selinske sends a bolt and shot for 8 go again. Evan, shores it all up because he knows that Paul has 1 card in hand and cannot send that arrow unless he's able to activate Death Dealer. No resources floating means, alas. Which is why I was kind of alluding to the fact that Paul needed to find a line that saved an activation of Death Dealer.
Yep. And did not get there. Now he must commit a card on blocks, but once again has full tempo, but it's not the 6-card hand that he had before.
Evan going for the very safe line here. Making sure, just knowing that the more turns he has with free daggers, the longer he spends in Value Town as the mayor, as it were, the more likely it is that he closes this game out. That's also what I love about Fang. You don't have to be in a hurry.
I will point out how valuable that frailty is, saving Paul 2 life.
Without a doubt. And also an extra point of value on Fang's side of the board because no refresh of the Dynamos.
Now it's just about what card do you block with.
He's got arrows. He's got a Ravenous Rabble as well. Bolt and Shot and a buff.
Okay.
So, unfortunately, not an easy way to activate Death Dealer here. But the nicest thing about Death Dealer is that it allows you to go card neutral if, indeed, you have to pitch a red for it. I might have seen a Bolt and Shot flashed in Paul's arsenal there.
I didn't catch it.
Which does mean that we have a pretty good line of Lace Bloodrot, Bolt and Shot into Ravenous Rabble. And potentially, just reload that last Bolt and Shot.
And we see the Searing Shot now committed to blocks.
Evan swings for 0 anyway. Both players in the tank about whether or not to block it. Evan having a good laugh here. Yeah, yuck it up, buddy. Paul saying, wait, are you gaming me right now? Like, what am I missing here?
Let me check under the table real quick. Evan with another defense reaction.
Showing a Rabble.
Ravenous Rabble finds Ravenous Rabble, which is a fantastic thing to draw off of Death Dealer.
2 cards in hand, 1 card in arsenal. No blocks, any reactions.
Nope.
No blocks, says Evan. He does have a sink below. He's waiting for the opportune time. Wanting to see if there's going to be any on hits coming his way, in which case Tenacity plus sink below is going to be great.
Yeah, that can stop a Bolton shot pumped up to 7.
That is exactly what you want to do when that buff confers a Blood Rod as well.
Dominator wrap.
Goes for the Azalea. I like that. Swap it out.
I
4
also
go
don't
again.
hate it. He gets another look at something that he could draw, but it's a Rain Razors. Less than ideal here.
Take 3.
The variance of this deck is not going Paul's way at the moment. 3 damage comes through, though. 2 plays 7. Only a 5 life deficit now for Paul Selinske.
Yeah, and every time Evan says no blocks, Paul is just sweating a little bit more.
Yeah, Paul is just not super stoked about this. Pitching a Lace with Blood Rot to load Bolton Shot and downgrade the buff that he could be using on this Bolton Shot.
4.
Both players having a laugh. There is nothing to hide here unless Evan has an incredibly short attention span. Interesting. Thinking about blocking with this Tenacity, I almost like just saying no blocks and doing Sync Blow because he's got 2 reactions in hand.
Right.
So Tenacity completely punishes all of the blocks that Paul is assuredly going to have to do on his next turn.
That's a good point.
Nope.
I'll take 1.
Yep.
Okay.
Last night, Evan was asking me about cards to replace, and he said Tenacities were on the chopping block. He said they're not doing very well. I'm like, well, maybe you're not using them right.
And this is a good example.
Obsidian Firevein for 1. No more bagels for Evan Bridges. And Paul is staring down just the hardest position when it comes to the Fang gang game.
Yeah.
When you're at this life total, you have to gamble, but also you can't. So here comes Searing Gaze. Evan is at least showing Paul at this point that he doesn't have any side steps.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he would have used them here and punished Paul for blocking 4.
I'll respond.
There you go.
You got 3 cards in hand?
Yeah.
I'll take 1.
Evan says, you have 3 cards in hand. I will take 1 because I'm sending a 4 power attack at you.
Yeah, and despite not killing Paul this turn, he is so insulated with that Sync Blow that's going straight into Arsenal.
And I think Paul is going to be forced to give 2 here because it's 2 buffs and an Endless Arrow.
Ooh.
This is the game state that Azalea needs to set up late game, though, where
Yeah.
you just sit on an Endless Arrow in Arsenal and essentially say, like, free Titan's Fist every single turn.
All right.
But I just don't think he has the room anymore.
Yeah, I mean, not with that Sync Below.
Evan hasn't drawn a single Hunt's End at this point.
Yep. And you know it's coming up. Another Tenacity in hand.
Yeah, Obsidian Firevein for 1.
I have reactions.
Evan says, I have reactions. Long Whisker Loyalty, probably choosing additional
I
attack.
can swing with this one more time.
Yep.
Do that.
Then Obsidian Firevein for 1 yet again. Evan has 3 cards in hand and 1 in Arsenal.
Whisker.
Long Whisker Loyalty, another dagger swing is allowed for Evan.
We'll say you can swing with this one again.
Ouch.
Tenacity.
Yeah.
Who said Tenacity's a bad card? 2
That's what I'm
damage gets you
saying, look
over
at
the
that.
finish line.
It means deterministic endgame states, man.
And Evan Bridges takes it.
Hand, I could've-
Well, Evan is making Fang look awfully sweet at the moment. I am, however, going to pour one out for Paul Selinske because, like I said, he's a pillar of this community, and I
Yeah.
want nothing but the best for him. But in this case, I win either way because
Yeah.
my hero carries the day, and I guess Evan is my nemesis. So
Well,
he,
you've been rooting for Fang all day. It's only fitting for you to see Azalea come on camera and
oh,
root
I
for
see.
her.
So I'm putting a dagger in my own heart.
I guess so.
All right, fine. Well, there's a dagger in my heart and mayonnaise on the palate of my co-caster. And we will probably be going to an interview with Evan Britt. Oh my gosh, we have to get Evan for an interview.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do it.
Oh,
Sorry, I got the last one.
If he says one thing about Whataburger, Michael, I think I'm gonna scream.
Ask him about mayonnaise on Whataburger.
Okay, yeah. That's fair. I do think that Evan is a person that only likes to eat brown food, though.
Oh.
Mayonnaise not being brown might not.
He strikes
bode well
me as
for
a
him.
mayonnaise guy, though. You know,
He kind of looks like mayonnaise, doesn't
there's
it?
just kind of it's a vibe. Like I like mayonnaise, but I'm not a mayonnaise guy. But,
You're not? You dip fries
It's
in
not my
it.
personality. Look, you know what? You might think this is crazy. I don't ask for mayonnaise. I eat my fries without dipping them in anything.
Oh, okay.
But like, if I have the choice, I'll go mayonnaise.
I think I'm going to start calling you Michael Whitewashed Murray.
Is that what that means? Michael No Seasoning Murray? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, like, let me ask you something. How often
Sure.
do you use ranch dressing?
Not. It's
Okay.
fine. I mean, like, if I'm getting a salad and they don't have good options, I'll go ranch.
Wow, you think ranch is a bad option?
It's just plain.
All right,
Give me
well,
some character.
The condiment debate will continue after this, whether you like it or not, and also whether you like it or not. We'll have an interview with Evan Bridges after this. Back not by popular demand, but because we are literally forced to. It's an interview with Evan Bridges. Hi, Evan.
Hi, Bryce. How's it going?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. That was a fun game. Paul's great. He's a local. I play him, all the time. So it was nice to take the win off of him and lock myself in for top 8.
Excellent. I have a question for you, Evan. How do you
Yeah.
feel about mayonnaise?
I don't love it. Honestly,
I knew it.
It's probably like the same way I feel about butter, where if I don't know that it's there, like you can't physically see it, then it probably tastes fine to me. But if I see it, then I'm like a small child. I'm like, ew, get that out of there.
So you would-
spicy mayo on sushi, so good.
Okay, so you wouldn't take a bite of a pat of butter or a spoonful of mayonnaise.
Correct.
Okay. I'm glad we cleared that up.
Okay.
So you're piloting Fang Dracai of Blades today.
Correct.
Not just any Fang deck, but mine.
Your deck, 99% your deck.
99. Yeah. What was the change? Because you clearly kept the 2 tenacities in.
Yeah. So I ended up cutting 1 blaze for the balance of justice, anticipating prisms here. There's not like a single prism in the room, or if there is,
I don't think there is.
They're not doing well. So the balance is going to go unused. And I think like multiple matchups today, I kind of wish I had 3 blaze, but I mean, blaze wasn't going to help me in the one game that I lost. So yeah, it is Bryce's list. He cooked it up. It's good.
I'm glad you're enjoying it, Evan. I'm also glad that you used it to smash one of our best friends, Paul Selinske, in that match. So how much Azalea have you played against on that list?
I played Paul like twice, I think.
Oh, okay.
In the past week, like at Odyssey. I think I won the official game, and then the second game I was winning until he sent like a dominated amplifying arrow for like 16 or something. I played against Chris at a ProQuest last weekend, and that was close, but I drew like a 3 blue hand when he had dominate, and then multiple instants when he was coming in for lethal with battering bolts. So it was close. I think the Azalea matchup isn't terrible. I think it's probably like 50-50. You just, block with your armor early so they don't get drill shot value.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, you piloted the deck masterfully in that game, except I think for the first tenacity that you had in hand, I think there was a way to close out the game, but it's possible you didn't have the react. The other
I'll
thing
have to go back and watch it.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention is the really heads-up play. When was it? Oh, when you played the Pledge Fealty and basically utilized that as your pitch card for the turn because you knew you were going to get online, rather than being forced to say, like, pitch that Blaze headlong in hand.
Right. Yeah, so I marked him on turn 0 because I had the double scar tissue, and then I think it was my second or third turn, I swing with the dagger, and he says no blocks, and I play the long whisker, just on hit mark him, so he just stays marked, and then I play the blaze headlong, which consumes the second mark, so I go to 2 fealty, and then play the pledge fealty, so now I'm online and can swing the daggers for free, and just go from there.
So you got to spend the majority of that game in Value Town.
Yeah.
Is it a drug you could get used to?
It does feel good. Like, so I haven't had much trouble getting online and staying online today. Like, even in my loss, I was online by turn 2, but he was throwing some disgusting combos at me, which hurt. But yeah, it definitely feels good when you're online. I haven't had to pitch many reds. I even beat a Kano earlier, and the blues lined up perfectly. I resolved a glint. That was how well that was lining up. I don't need.
So you're saying it could be done?
Yeah, you can beat Kano if they see no potions and decide to pop off before then.
You heard it here first, folks. Kano, easy matchup for Fang Dracai of Blades. Evan, a lot of people have listed you as their nemesis in player profiles. Do you think that has something to do with your stance on mayonnaise and butter, or is it something else?
I don't think it's that. I've no one's ever talked to me about the mayonnaise thing. The butter thing is, also not an important part of my personality. So Inez said she's that I was one of her rivals. I actually beat her today, so that felt good. Did it for the Dodgers. Padres also lost today, 7-1. In case anybody's checking. So I've said some contentious things about San Diego, not just the Padres, San Diego in general. I've never said San Diego sucks, except for the Padres. Padres suck. But San Diego, the city itself, is fine. It's just, not LA, which Inez, being from the San Diego area, takes objection to. And then Anthony also says I'm his listed rival. I don't know. I haven't.
He doesn't just say that. He says he was put on this earth to stop you.
I honestly, I don't know where it's come from. Like, ever since Lexi went away. I had a long hiatus of not doing great. KO was all right, and then Florian, Stacked Florian when I was on it was decent. I guess.
Hold on, we skipped over a couple things there.
Okay.
Can we talk about Teklevasen?
So Teklevasen, I was on it very briefly, not as long as I was on KO for sure.
Or Arachne Huntsman, perhaps.
Yeah, or Arachne Huntsman. Teklo, I didn't make any enemies except for all the Guardian players.
In fact, you made friends. You gave St. Johnson his first ever 40-0.
Yeah, I did it for him. Like, that was intentional. I just decided, it's been a minute. Zane, I listed him as my rival because we've had a lot of, games that were like very memorable. So being 40-0'd on stream was painful, and then at AGE San Diego, he destroyed me when he was new and I was on Zen. But there was a ProQuest pre-Outsiders where he was on Oldham and I was on Lexi, which is like, you remember, like 80-20 matchup or something in Oldham's favor, and I beat him to go on to win that ProQuest. So that was like the first memorable win against him. What
do you think about mobile games, Evan?
There are some good mobile games, but honestly, like, the best mobile games are the ones that I never hear advertised for. Like, I haven't played Slay the Spire, but I'm sure there's a mobile version of that that's very popular.
Yeah,
I played Bloons, TD6, Hearthstone, whatever.
What about Kingshot?
I did not play Kingshot. Never going to play Kingshot. I think that's a fake game. So, like, my YouTube is very, video game focused. So most of my ads are, like mobile game ads. So there's Kingshot, which they get, just terrible actors to act like they're having fun playing the game. They're not actually having fun.
So is your gripe with it that you should be the one hired to advertise these games because you could act better?
I guess. They're not making the games look.
Okay, give me your Kingshot ad right now. You're playing Kingshot.
Nah, I can't even. I can't even imagine myself playing Kingshot because it's just a crappy tower defense game. Like, why would I be playing Kingshot when I could be playing Bloons? You buy monkeys to blow up balloons. There's magic monkeys and there's dart monkeys and there's cannon monkeys. In Kingshot, you just ride around on a stupid horse building, generic medieval, defenses, and it's a stupid game. And for the advertising, they're just like, we're going to be as annoying as possible so people remember the name. So honestly, I'm probably helping out the makers of Kingshot right now by saying the name of their game so much. There's also that Last War survival game. I don't know if you've seen the ads for that, but they're just dumb. Yeah. So if I see an advertisement for a mobile game, it probably is bad.
What were we talking about?
Yeah, yapping about Kingshot.
Yeah, I think this interview might be over. I think we might have squeezed as much as we can out of this rock. What do you say, Evan?
I'm going to go download Kingshot and give it a try before the next round.
Okay, buddy. Best of luck. I am clearly very rooting for you.
Thank you. I'll be back at the end of the day and do the deck box.